Hello, America, and welcome to the Glenn Beck program. We have the latest headlines that are happening in the world, and for some reason, I don't think anybody's really explaining the Freedom Flotilla that was attacked by the IDF. It all fits an all too convenient storyline. Israel attacks the peace activist on a humanitarian mission. I even read a story from The Guardian that said, as for violence, well, we can see who supplied that, meaning the Israelis. But once again, the media script doesn't seem to match reality, at least when I compare the videotape. It was all caught on videotape. Can you show this here? Here's a guy this is a soldier thrown overboard. He has severe brain damage now. Look at this. You see this? There's a soldier on the ground, and they're using pipes to beat him. I'll show you when we've seen this before. We have seen that scene before. But everybody ran to the defense of the guy on the ground. That video, you're hard-pressed to see it here in America from media outlets besides Fox. Nobody seems willing to show that, leaving the question, why? Well, I told you last night we're going to start looking at history for the answers. It's impossible to understand how any of this stuff is happening unless you look to history. Headlines don't teach us anything. They don't tell us jack. It's the story that matters, the story that we live, the story that we tell ourselves, the story that is the truth. Here it is, the story of America today. What is the history of Israel? Why are we even tied to them? Why do we care? What was the UN's role? What is the history of the Freedom Flotilla? That's an interesting question there. Who's behind that Freedom Flotilla, those humanitarians? Is there anybody with the Freedom Flotilla that's from America that's involved? Wouldn't you like to know that question? And how did the world and the press come to the idea that Israel was killing everybody so fast with that video there? And has this ever happened before? Tonight, the facts, the history, the story of America. I want to talk to you a little bit about Israel. It's an amazing place. It's very, very similar to us. It's not what you see on television. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's different, but it's different in the way that, Canada is different. I mean, Canada, the United States, it's always really kind of been one and the same. I don't know how they feel about that, but it's kind of like the same country, except, a little more regulation, I guess, until now. It's not as different. It's different in that way. It's not different like, us and Venezuela or us and Egypt or Iran. Those are worlds apart. But Israel's problems are even very similar for us. For example, they have a political system that is crippling their country. We have one of those. Israel has 3 major political parties, and the way it works, at least the way I understand it, is that third party, they don't really care who wins. It's kind of like, you ever watch the show Survivor? They just cobble together coalitions. They don't give a flying rat's butt about anybody on the show. They just, how can I cobble together enough power before in the end I slit your throat? Okay? That's the way it works on Survivor, and I think it's the way it works when any country has, a coalition of power. England is working that way. Well, their system, because of that third party, is creating so much welfare for the state, it's collapsing the economy. Almost 20% of Israeli men aged 35 to 54 are not working. 27% of Arab men, 65% of Orthodox Jews don't work. That's the third party. And every time they're like, I don't know, they'll give us another day off. What will you give us? Most of these people opt for the life of state-subsidized religious study. It's bankrupting the system. And the people who are living off the system end up being political pawns. Like I said earlier, I don't know if you've ever been to Israel before. After September 11th, I went to Israel. I tried to figure things out a little bit. It's not what you see on TV. I expected everything to be burning cars. It's not. It's an amazing place. The most amazing thing that I think I came back from that experience with is my visit to the Temple Mount. I didn't obviously go to the Temple Mount. I can't because I'm not Muslim. But, I mean, standing anywhere in that country, you feel that mount. At least I did. This is the space on earth where people think that God first talked to man. First time that God would speak to man as an individual. Abraham prepared to sacrifice Isaac right there. It's where Solomon built the temple. It's where Muhammad ascended into the sky. It's where Jesus turned over the tables. It's where Christians believe the Antichrist will stand, where they'll build the temple again, and it's where Jesus will return again. I mean, this is an amazing spot of land. It's only 45 acres. That's the size of a shopping mall. That place. You can feel it, the power from the Temple Mount. You can. And it's got the whole world looking at it. Muslims, Christians, Jews. I mean, you may not believe in any of this stuff. I do. But you may not believe in this. But you got to ask yourself, how is it that a country the size of a postage stamp could throw the world into chaos and is predicted to play the central role in the coming of the Messiah? Fiji is about the same size as the entire country. New Jersey is slightly bigger. Wow. How is it a country that size that disappeared 2,000 years ago? I mean, here's a country that it was foretold would be destroyed and then would come back again and play a great role. Can you name any country that has left the face of the earth and then reformed and come back 2,000 years later? I got one. How about you? Israel was gone for centuries. Now, how did it get back into the picture? What happened? This is where it gets dicey and where America is involved. What a surprise! 1917, Woodrow Wilson. World War I. Most of Europe was preparing for war in 1917. Europe wanted to go to war. They wanted to duke it out. The U.S., the people didn't want to be involved, but the government did. We wanted war for two reasons. One, we knew that we would become the strongest of the world players because we were loaning everybody money. It's kind of like what China is doing now. They know they're going to win in the end because we're all their slaves. We're indebted to them. Woodrow Wilson knew this. How could you defeat the British Empire? You didn't have to worry about defeating the British Empire. We'd own them. And then we could tell them, which we did, you got to get rid of your navy. Cut it in half. They'd have a giant IOU hanging over their head. The second reason we wanted to get involved is really a twisted reason. It's the progressives again. They actually believed a war in Europe would provide some sort of, their language, not mine, collective salvation for man. Whew. All right. Europe couldn't afford the war. We were willing to finance. But they also had some other problems. So they turned to the rich and powerful Jewish community, including the first president of the state of Israel, Chaim Weizmann. This guy was key in helping fund and equip the British war effort, World War I. He did something else. Germany had cornered the market on acetone. I don't even know what that is. Sounds nasty. It's a key ingredient for arms production. Britain didn't have any. What are they going to do? Germany has it all. They would have lost the war. But Weizmann invented a formation process that allowed the British to manufacture their own liquid acetone. So the British were like, thank you, what can we ever do for you? Weizmann was a leading voice for Israel's statehood. On November 2nd, 1917, they took a little piece of paper out of the drawer from the Imperial Hotel, and they wrote on this piece of paper what is known as the Balfour Declaration. It was a formal statement by the British government saying that, okay, we're gonna do a Jewish homeland for you. In the British occupied region, that was, what was it, ancient Palestine? Is that what they were calling it? British occupied ancient Palestine. Okay? It was land that really nobody really wanted.